Everything has layers. Break it down. See how it works.
In this final part, we'll move past the debate over names and focus on the real question. The actual mechanisms that allow a shared human storehouse to exist without invoking anything mystical. At this point, it's tempting to bring in a more modern analogy: AI. Transformer models, the kind that power many language AIs, use something called attention weights. Given a sequence of tokens, words, pieces of words, the model learns to assign different degrees of attention to each token depending on the context. Some get strongly amplified. Others are kept in the background, still there, but less decisive for the next step. Brains are not transformers. They don't compute in the same way. But functionally, the analogy helps. In both systems, what gets amplified becomes decisive. What doesn't get amplified is relegated to a kind of context buffer, still available for later recombination. This parallel clarifies how content can be there without being foregrounded. A memory, an association, a symbolic pattern can sit in the wings for years, then re-enter awareness when the right cue appears. A smell, a face, a line in a book, a crisis. The key is to keep the analogy in its proper place. It's functional, not ontological. Comparing brains and transformers doesn't mean the brain is just an AI, and it certainly doesn't mean AIs have an unconscious in the human sense. But the comparison does illuminate the filter and recombine logic that both seem to share. So where does this leave the grand mystical language? In spiritual vocabulary, Akashic records means a cosmic library accessed by altered states, a transcendent database where nothing is ever lost. In Jungian vocabulary, the collective unconscious is a shared pattern space expressed through archetypes that surface in dreams, myths, and creative work. In neuroscientific vocabulary, the same broad terrain becomes the brain's way of filtering, storing, and integrating information outside awareness, especially during sleep, and retrieving it whenever context fits. Different labels. Same territory. The real disagreement is not over whether humans tap into recurring patterns that feel larger than themselves. We clearly do. The disagreement is over which narrative, which vocabulary, and which methods we trust when we talk about it. And that brings us to the final move. Arguing over which name is real, Akashic, or collective unconscious, or some jargon-heavy neuroscience term, misses the point. These are 2 or 3 or 10 maps of a single landscape, the shared repertoire that humanity keeps remaking. We glimpse it in dreams. We codify it in myths and religions. We recruit it, often without knowing, through intuition and creative hunches. And under all of that, it is implemented in the brain's energy-saving architecture: attention, memory, consolidation, compression. We don't need excess mysticism to honor that reality. We also don't need to sneer at every spiritual metaphor as if it were worthless. What we need is clearer language and better methods. So if you want the short formula, here it is. Akashic records in mystical language. Approximately collective unconscious in Jungian language. Approximately selective attention and sleep-dependent consolidation in neuroscientific language. Different names, same phenomenon. What remains is to test our claims at the right level and to keep our interpretations humble.